We're traveling around the world today on CNN10, and we're happy to have you with us. I'm your tour guide, Carl Azus. Now, our first stop is in southern Asia, where massive flooding tied to monsoon season is soaking parts of Nepal, as well as areas of India and neighboring Bangladesh. Heavy rains are typical in this region during August, which is when the monsoon rains blow in. But aid workers affiliated with the Red Cross say this season's been worse than usual, that some of the affected areas haven't seen flooding like this in decades. Hundreds of people have been killed in floods and landslides. Tens of thousands of homes have been damaged or destroyed. And with some communities completely cut off, the only way to get them help and supplies is by boat. The waters are receding in Nepal, and a government spokesman there says the situation is improving. Aid workers are on the lookout for diseases that can follow natural disasters, like malaria and other bacterial infections. They can be spread through tainted water supplies and the lack of sanitation. Southern Asia is one of the wettest regions on the planet, and many cities there were not properly built to account for flooding. Next story involves speech, private companies, and the internet. The First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution gives Americans certain rights. To say what they want and to assemble peacefully in public are two of them. But let's say a hate group wants to put its views on the internet. Though many may find the content offensive or unacceptable, in many cases the Constitution protects its freedom of speech. But the group needs a server, a computer to host the site, and a domain name, an internet address, so people can get to it. Here's where this gets tricky. Domain names have to be registered. Private companies do that. If they decide not to register the name of the hate group, that group has no online address that internet users could get to. So the question is that an unconstitutional limit on free speech? CNN's Jeffrey Toobin says it's not.
Cloudflare, GoDaddy, and Google all cut ties and refuse to host this website. And that's raised questions about the intersection of the internet and free speech. The First Amendment to the Constitution does not give you a right to be on the internet. It simply gives you a right not to be censored by the government. The First Amendment does not prohibit private companies from regulating who they want to do business with. So Google, GoDaddy have the perfect right to say to the Daily Stormer, we don't want anything to do with you. Tech companies have somewhat contradictory goals because at one level, they want to be like the phone company. You can't sue the phone company if somebody makes a threat over the phone. The phone company is not responsible for the content of what's said over the phone. And the internet companies, by and large, want that same protection. At the same time, they recognize that they're not the same as the phone company, and they do have some greater role to protect against copyright violations, other kinds of obscenity. They want to regulate, but they don't want the government to punish them if they don't regulate correctly. Companies on the internet all have terms of service that they can enforce, and they can do business with who they want to do business with, on the left or the right. And the government, by and large, leaves it to the market to decide who has access to private companies. If Google starts censoring all political content, presumably people will stop going to Google. The term hate speech can have different definitions in different contexts. When you're talking about the First Amendment and what the government can prohibit, there's almost no hate speech that can be banned. The First Amendment does not apply to private companies, and Google and GoDaddy can say, we don't want racism, anti-Semitism, bigotry on our websites. And I think that distinction between what the government can do and what private companies can do is an important one to remember.
10-second trivia. The United Kingdom's Elizabeth Tower is often called what? Big Ben, Tower of London, Iron Bridge, or Windsor Castle. Though it's technically the 13-ton bell inside of Elizabeth Tower, Big Ben is often used to refer to the whole clock tower. To get to some of the most unexplored places on Earth, you don't have to have a Jeep, a helicopter, or a submarine. You just need a rope. The forest canopy, the highest reaches of leafy branches, host an incredible number of mammals, plants, and insects, some of which never even touch the ground. It gives people a sound scientific reason to climb trees.
My name's Tim Kovar. I'm the founder of Tree Climbing Planet. It's a technical tree climbing school based here in Oregon City. We teach people how to climb trees, not only in Oregon, but also around the world. I think there's something deeply rooted into our DNA that draws human beings to trees. When you're a child, if you grew up around trees, you climb trees. So taking people to kind of recapture their youth up into the treetops, but by doing it with ropes and saddles makes it a little bit safer, not just for the climber, but also for the tree too. We don't want to be damaging the tree.
Helmets must be worn at all times when you're underneath the tree.
I've worked with children from 5 years old all the way up to 85, 90 years old. Pretty much anybody can do it.
One hand above, one hand below. Gonna stand and slide that knot up.
I look at tree climbing more as a place to be rather than a thing to do. This seems to take some of the pressure off people who may be afraid of heights. Once it's explained, we're just gonna go up there and hang out for the day. You go as high as you want and as slow or as quick as you want.
Probably, 2 more and you should be pretty much in the clear.
The most challenging part is getting our lines into the trees.
Firing.
Some of the taller trees, we have to use giant slingshots, we use bow and arrows, crossbows. Once we get that up and over the branch, then we tie our climbing ropes onto that, pull that up and over.
It's always a good feeling when it comes back down.
The canopy is really one of the last frontiers on our planet. We've studied the ocean, we've studied the moon, but just the rooftop of our planet, especially in the rainforest, 80–90% of the life lives up inside that canopy, and it hasn't been studied a whole lot. And so when people ascend up, even though it's only 40, 50, 60 feet above their head, they're going into a world that's usually unexplored.
Hey, I'm gonna be sleeping up there tonight. Got a tree boat, all situated.
One of the highlights for a lot of people is actually sleeping in the trees. When you wake up in the top of a tree, you got the birds singing above you, below you, off to the sides. It's like you're in this vortex of morning symphony.
Normally it'd take around 45 minutes to fly from Santa Monica, California to San Francisco, or just under 6 hours to drive. This bus does it in 8 hours and costs more than $100 for a one-way trip. So why would you take it? Because sleep. Cabin is its name, hoteling is its game. It calls itself a boutique hotel that sleeps 24 guests and takes a slow, comfortable overnight drive from one city to the other. So if you're looking to catch some Z's while getting from A to B, if road trips bore you to sleep, or if you suffer from Santa insomnica, you can see why some folks might want to hop on that omnibus and catch some cabin fever. I'm Carl Azus for CNN10, and we're leaving the station. See you tomorrow.